Greetings, humans, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for Sunday, July 19th, 2020. Good to see you again. Thanks for the countdowns. And I have my ducks in a row this week, so this should go much more smoothly. So let's take a look at the last week in space. Last Wednesday we had a Minotaur 4 launch, which, let's make sure my audio is working. Okay, we had a Minotaur 4 launch from the Wallops Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, or Mars as they call it, which was a classified mission for the National Reconnaissance Office, NROL-129, launching into low Earth orbit. Little history on the Minotaur rocket. Let me switch here. Minotaur is a bit of a special case of a rocket because it's actually a repurposed intercontinental ballistic missile. The Minotaur rocket program, they take old parts from ICBMs that were originally built to deliver nuclear warheads across the globe, and they use the repurposed rockets to deliver satellite payloads into orbit. So, you know, swords into plowshares, as they say. Minotaur 1 and 2 were derived from the old LGM-30 Minuteman missile, first designed way back in the 1950s by Boeing. The Minotaur 3, 4, and 5 models were derived from the LGM-118 Peacekeeper missile, built from 1985 through 2005 by a bunch of companies, including Boeing, Martin Marietta, TRW, and Denver Aerospace. So this past here, so what we're looking at here is an old Minuteman missile, and then this here is the Peacekeeper. So the Minotaur 4 launch that took place last Wednesday was basically built from parts scrapped from one of these Peacekeeper missiles. And here, let's take a look at the launch real quick.
T-minus 15, T-minus 10, T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Liftoff of the Northrop Grumman Minotaur rocket carrying 4 L-129 spacecraft to orbit for the National Reconnaissance Office, marking 20 years of Minotaur launches and 14 years of partnership with National Wallops Flight Facility and the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport.
Vehicle attitude and flight path are nominal. Pitch over complete.
Check step 92, 93, 94,
Vehicle
95.
avionics power is nominal.
Passing Mach 2, motor pressure nominal.
T plus 36 seconds. Entering max Q. Attitude nominal.
Passing Mach 3 at maximum stage 1 thrust of over 5,000 pounds. Passing.
So the Minotaur 4 rocket's actually a 4-stage rocket. And I looked up that somebody asked in the comments, somebody asked a question about the G-forces experienced by the payload because the launch was really fast and you know, much more so than we're accustomed to from rockets like the Falcon 9 and the Soyuz. First of all, it's a fairly small rocket, but I remember it was an ICBM. It wasn't originally designed for launching satellites, but the performance parameters, it has a very high thrust to weight ratio. I don't have that number in front of me, but so as far as the G-forces experienced by the load, so far as I could tell from the Orbital ATK Minotaur Payload Users Guide, which is publicly available and accessible online. I think there was a bird we just saw. In any case, the User's Guide, during the 3rd stage ignition, I guess, the maximum G-forces can reach up to like 9 Gs, something like that, 9.5 Gs. Way more than we would want our squishy humans to be subjected to. But yeah, so it's a fast rocket, and yeah. So moving on. Oh yes, there was some talk that this may have been the last Minotaur launch that we would see, and that actually does not appear to be the case. A quick search online shows that there are still some planned launches for next year of a Minotaur 1 and 2, as well as another Minotaur 4 in 2021. So I don't think Minotaur is quite done yet. I think we still, I don't have any personal knowledge of the extent of our old ICBM stockpiles, but I believe we have adequate parts from old ICBM rockets to support Minotaur launches for a while. Last Thursday, we had yet another spacewalk. Same guys, Bob Behnken and ISS Commander Chris Cassidy, were swapping out more old nickel-hydrogen batteries for new lithium-ion batteries. And if you're not already familiar with this series of spacewalks, it's been going on. It started way back in 2017, but there were 24 batteries ultimately that on the space station's P6 truss that they wanted to swap out for new ones. And thus far, with this last spacewalk, they have swapped out 23 of them. Well, in fact, they swapped out 24.
I have control. Okay. I have control.
Oh, he has control. That's good to know. They actually swapped out all 24 of them, but there was a fault in one of the batteries, and so they're going to require one final spacewalk, which will take place later this week, to replace that last battery. Let's see. Yesterday, I'll let this video keep playing. Yesterday, a private Japanese rocket, MOMO, launch was scrubbed due to high winds and ice-bearing clouds. You may recall not that long ago, a couple weeks ago, there was a MOMO launch that failed and the rocket was lost. But hopefully, you know, I guess they want to. Well, that one wasn't due to the failure was not due to the weather conditions, but in any case, hopefully this when they do pin down a new launch date for this MOMO launch. Hopefully they are successful. Good to see some people wearing masks in mission control. I think the general rule is that they wear masks while they're walking around, and maybe not when they're sitting stationary. All right, so I've been neglecting the chat. Let me... Oh yes, and then in this past spacewalk, they did one other thing besides swap out the battery, and that is that they installed a new HD camera, nadir facing, it appears, HD camera. Nadir is straight down toward the ground in aerial / satellite imagery speak. So this is a view from that new HD camera. It's blocked. Well, we see part of the solar panel there, and the other object in the upper right, I'm not sure what that is. Some micrometeoroid protective covering on one of the modules, I guess. Yep, no incidents this time. No, I mean, the previous spacewalk, they lost, what was it? It was Bob Bankin, I think it was, or Chris, one of the two anyway, lost his wrist mirror when he exited the airlock. But yeah, no such issues this time. So let me take a look at the chat, because I've been talking away here. Chris V, thank you. I am glad to be looking great. I shaved this morning, so that's a thing. Oh yes, Kofefe. I've got it. I've had it. There's actually an unusual amount of work that has to go into preparing, even for a brief Space Week episode, when I do it properly. Otherwise, I don't have my facts on hand, and it gets a little awkward. Aaron Kitchens says, did y'all hear you can see 5 planets before sunrise? I did not hear that. However, it is unlikely that I will be conscious before sunrise on most days. I was actually awake at 4 a.m. today because I'm stupid, but oh yes, I don't even have in my notes to mention the comet Neowise. So it's there. You can see it if you have clear skies and you're in the northern hemisphere. I think it's currently located like straight underneath the Big Dipper. Actually, I think it's fairly distant from the Big Dipper now, maybe a full Big Dipper length away, a little more than that. But unfortunately, in North Carolina in the summertime, the weather is complete junk. We get storms almost every evening, and the sky is just super humid, super cloudy, super hazy. And even on a clear night, quote-unquote clear night in the summertime, you still can't see toward the horizon because there's so much haze in the atmosphere. So I have not been able to catch Neowise myself. I'm still hoping for a clear night. There was one clear night a couple days ago, but I was in La La Land and forgot to go look. So shame on me. The brightest northern hemisphere comet in the past 23 years may just escape my viewing, and I would have to drive like hours to get away from the clouds. So screw North Carolina weather. I should move to the Atacama Desert, except that's in the wrong hemisphere. So Rockin' Robbins 13 mentions no throttle back at max Q for the Minotaur. What are the 5 planets we can see? Mars, Saturn, well, obviously Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. I mean, you're not going to see Uranus or Neptune with the naked eye. They're too dim and too distant. But so I guess that would have to make it Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Mercury, the five. Well, the inner planets plus the two nearest outer planets. Binoculars, you can see Uranus and Neptune. Okay. CR2032 batteries. Yes, microbyte. They use button cells for the ISS. The CR2032 is a little button cell battery that's you can find on most computer motherboards and a lot of electronics like pocket calculators, if people still carry those. Let's see. Astronomy Films, definitely check him out. He's one of our mods as well as a creator himself. He makes great short videos about spaceflight history. All right. Daniel Sutter asks, why was the Minotaur launch so violent? Well, remember, the Minotaur was basically built from old ICBM missile parts. And ICBMs were intended to be, they were designed to be fast and decisive, because they were intended to deliver their nuclear payloads to locations around the globe in a matter of minutes. So it's going to be a highly performant rocket, maybe not so gentle on the payload, but it's definitely not going to be a gentle ride. You'll never see a human riding on a Minotaur rocket. Oh, hold on a second. Nice, very nice. Here, I'll show that. So here's a picture that Rockin' Robbins 13 took of Neowise in the well, he didn't specify morning or evening, but anyway, in the haze of the low horizon in Florida. 55 stacked images, 15 seconds at f1.8, taken on his LG G4 cell phone. He's all about the astrophotography with his LG G4. Oh my, what? I'm getting some weird notifications from my browser here. All right, so looking ahead, let's move forward here. Looking ahead to this week, look, it is the Raw Space calendar, which I shall now link in the chat. Looking ahead to this week, very shortly today, Sunday, July 19th at 5:58 p.m. Eastern, 9:58 p.m. GMT, the Hope Mars mission from the United Arab Emirates will launch on a Japanese H-2A rocket. The stream starts at 5:15 p.m. Eastern, 9:15 GMT, with a live Q&A session with me, Raw Space. The Hope Mars mission, this is a Mars orbiter, not a lander, but an orbiter from the UAE, and I will have more to say about that during the pre-launch Q&A. Tomorrow, Monday, July 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. GMT, SpaceX is going to launch the Anasis 2 military communications satellite for South Korea. This was supposed to launch on the 14th, but they needed more time to inspect the second stage. Then it was supposed to launch again today at 5 p.m., but they delayed it again, so the launch is now pushed to tomorrow. Then on Tuesday, July 21st, starting at 6 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. GMT, is the last in a long series of spacewalks over the past 3 years to replace old nickel-hydrogen batteries on the space station's P6 truss with new lithium-ion batteries. The spacewalk will last up to 7 hours. And again, the reason why they needed this last spacewalk is because one of the 24 batteries that they had replaced previously failed, and they had to send up a new one. Then on Thursday, July 23rd at 10:26 a.m. Eastern, 2:26 p.m. GMT, the Russian Progress 76P supply module to the ISS will launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on a Soyuz rocket, which is what Progress always launches on. It rendezvous less than 3 hours later, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT. This very quick trip to the ISS is possible due to the alignment of the space station's orbital pass with Baikonur Cosmodrome, as well as the capabilities of the Soyuz in relation to the mass of the payload and the perhaps even the G-force tolerances of the payload versus the squishy humans that launch from Baikonur. That takes them longer to get to the ISS. But and then on Friday the 24th will mark the 51st anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. You may remember last year there was a big, I'm pretty sure I did an all-day sort of Apollo 11 marathon, didn't I? I think I did. In any case, here we are already at the 51st anniversary. And so we are now 50 years in the middle of the Apollo program. Apollo 11, first moon landing launched in July of 1969, and the last moon landing, Apollo 17, launched in 1972, wasn't it? I don't have the date on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, so here we are in the midst of the Apollo program 50 years later. I'll have to put together some sort of commemoration or tribute video to observe this, because my opinion and the opinions of many others, it is perhaps the greatest achievement of our species to reach out and touch another cosmic neighbor. Let's see. Oh, yes. Oh, Centaur. Very nice. A Centaur, not Minotaur. Asks, what problems could have caused all the SpaceX launch delays in the past 3 weeks? So I actually have a special background for that. Here we go. ScrubX. Oh boy. Yeah, this, interestingly enough, this animated image is actually from 2017. I found it on Imager.com, and I was like, oh my god, I have to steal that. So I don't remember what was going on with SpaceX in 2017, but apparently they were scrubbing bubbles. So I am not sure. There were 2 launches, the Anasis as well as the Starlink 9 launch, that were delayed. And SpaceX stated reason was because they needed additional time for checkouts. I don't know what was up with that, and I'm generally too busy to like dig super deeply into the online forums to try to find the answer. If somebody knows any more specifics on what the problem was that was causing the non-weather related scrubs recently, I'd love to hear it, because I'm curious myself. But so long as everything is a-okay when it does come time to launch, then we shall be good. So moving along, looking further ahead, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine tweeted that astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken will be leaving the space station in their SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft on Saturday, August the 1st. So they launched up there on, gosh, I went to look up the date, but hold on. Well, anyway, it's been a couple months. They've been up there a while. Just look up the Crew Dragon DM2 launch date. And so they've been up there for a couple of months doing their jobs, helping out with spacewalks and science operations and station maintenance, etc. But it is time for them to return. They were not ever intended to be a full. They were never. It was never planned for them to stay the full duration of the expedition mission length, which is typically 6 months. And so now they're going to return home. They're going to depart the station on August 1st and then splash back down into the Atlantic Ocean on August 2nd. And May 27, 30 May. Okay, I'm seeing different dates. Looking further ahead, NASA also tweeted that a new target launch date has been set for the very much anticipated James Webb Space Telescope. Due to COVID-related delays as well as technical challenges, which the project has been plagued with since the beginning, the new launch date is now October 31st, 2021. Unless in case you've been living under a rock and you're not familiar with the James Webb Space Telescope, it is the next great space telescope. It's an infrared. You can consider it to be the next generation Hubble, except it's not an optical telescope. It's an infrared telescope. It's been in the design and development and planning stages for, 20 years. And it's been delayed many times over many years. It was supposed to launch back in the mid-2000s, I think. But, redonkulous cost overruns and et cetera, have pushed it out, as well as technical challenges with the spacecraft. So there are a lot of things that need to go right in order for James Webb to start producing very valuable scientific data. First, it has to launch. We have to reach a point where it actually is mounted in the payload fairing of the Ariane 5 rocket and launched from the European Space Agency's spaceport in French Guiana, which is where it's been planned to launch from for a long time. Second, it has to launch successfully. So not only does it need to get off the ground, but the Ariane 5 needs to do its job and get it in the proper trajectory to send it out to the Earth-Sun L2 Lagrange point, which is on the opposite side of the Earth, away from the Sun. It's a very quiet location where it can, take its infrared measurements in peace. And then once it gets there, it has to do a very complex series of sort of origami unfolding of the spacecraft in order to, fold out the reflective mirrors and the complicated the infrared shielding foil that has multiple layers and looks like a big diamond. So it's a very complex series of deployment steps that need to take place in order for the spacecraft to transform itself. And then once it is successfully inserted into a halo orbit around the Earth-Sun L2 Lagrange point, then it can begin, its science mission, which should allow us to reach much deeper into the cosmos than we've ever reached before. And one of the reasons why, one of the main reasons why, there's two reasons why infrared is preferable to optical wavelengths of light. is, first of all, infrared allows us to see through a lot of the cosmic dust that's in the way, particularly as we gaze into the center of our own galaxy, which is visually blocked by a lot of dust. And secondly, as the universe expands, the expansion of the universe causes what's called redshift, which is where the actual light wavelengths from distant stars and galaxies are stretched, and as space-time itself expands, and that causes the light to shift further toward the red end of the spectrum, which is why when you see photos, like for example from the Hubble Deep Field or Ultra Deep Field images of very, very distant objects, they look very red, because the light has literally, due to the stretching of space, has literally become more red. And so with a telescope optimized for the infrared end of the spectrum, we will be able to see farther with greater sensitivity than a telescope which is optimized for optical. All right, looking at the chat. Snow Kittens says the Starlink rocket got a lift back to the building and is not vertical anymore. Not sure about the status right now. The Starlink rocket. Okay, yeah. So there's 2 SpaceX launches pending. One is the Anasis mission for South Korea, and the other is Starlink with ride-sharing satellites from Black Sky Global, I think is their name. There may be some irony there that a Starlink launch is deploying Black Sky satellites, because people complain about Starlink sullying the dark skies of the world. Yeah, no, I have no news on Starlink. It was delayed, and a new launch date has not yet been set that I'm aware of. So as soon as that does get determined, I will let you know. And hey, look, I'm big again. Correct lenses. So Daniel Sauter, they're actually, so he's referring to the Hubble Space Telescope mirror, really. But so yes, hopefully they have the correct mirrors on this this James Webb Space Telescope. Pretty sure they've checked that out a bunch of times, and it should be all right. If not, the mission's kind of hosed, because there shall be no servicing mission to the Earth to L2, the Earth-Sun L2 Lagrange point. Low Earth orbit, we can service, given the right motivation, we can service missions in low Earth orbit. We cannot service missions way out 1 million miles away at the L2 Lagrange point. So if there is an issue with the spacecraft, that's it. There's not much we can do except kick ourselves forever. So let's see. Do I have any more notes? I do not. So that pretty much wraps it up for this edition of SpaceWeek Live with Raw Space. Do tune in a very short amount of time, in less than 2 hours, to the live broadcast of the launch of the UAE's Hope Mars Orbiter mission on the Japanese H-2A rocket. That begins at 5:15 p.m. Eastern, 9:15 p.m. GMT. So thank you all very much for coming, and until next week, keep it raw and take care, stay safe, etc., etc.